Oh boy, another whiny killer man.
Well, I'm sorry, I fucking had it, man. I have officially had it. Yes, officially. I have a certificate. This fucking perk, man. Dead hard. Even the name is stupid. Dead hard. I sound like a damn caveman philosopher. Now, if you're a killer main, you probably popped a huge boner seeing the title of this video, but if you're a survivor main, I encourage you to stay. All I'm asking for is a chance, just a chance to explain that this perk, Dead Hard, is the most insanely overpowered mechanic in all of Dead by Daylight. And before you start saying, but what about, let me say, I have scoured the internet far and wide. I have found every single argument in favor of Dead Hard, and I will take them on one by one in this video, so please, just wait for your argument to pop up before you flip out in the comments. Now first, let's address the people who contribute to Dead Hard arguments that shouldn't even be there. The I suck so it must be okay crowd. Common arguments like, I always just dead hard into a wall, or the now patched, I just end up exhausted on the ground when I use it, will often be found here. These people might also say things like, the 3-point line isn't even good because I always miss. All I want to say to these people is, why are you even bothering to comment, man? What possesses you to walk into an argument between people who know what they're talking about, admit you have minimal to no experience, and then give your opinion anyway? The dead hard argument is not about survivors who dead hard into walls, or who don't know how to use it. Just like the nurse OP argument is not about the baby nurse who needs 20 blinks to land a hit. If you don't know how to use the perk, you don't need to add your opinion. And honestly, I'm sorry, if you can't aim your character and press a button, you just suck. And why does anyone want an opinion from someone who sucks? Say you want customer feedback before you purchase a new toothbrush. How important to you is the review of the guy who shoved it up his ass? Oh, it doesn't help you at all? But look, he's technically using it, and he says it sucks. Isn't that important to know about? No? Are you sure? He took the time to comment on it. If you can't use Dead Hard correctly, please just go back to sucking at the game and stop commenting your opinions on game balance. Okay, let's move on to the argument that's barely one step above those people. Just wait it out. Now, I'm not even gonna get to the whole, you can't wait it out when it's used for distance argument yet. The one that killer mains have to explain over and over and over again. Let's just take this statement at face value. Just wait it out. Seems simple enough. On every chase, when the survivors are injured, if they haven't shown you a different exhaustion perk, just wait 1 to 2 seconds. Here we go. 1, 2. Okay, I got son of a bitch! Okay, maybe 2 to 3 seconds. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and hit. There, that wasn't so hard, was it? Now just do that every chase, every game, with every killer. Here's my problem. This isn't fun. I'm not having fun. In what world does a fast-paced, horror-themed chase simulator need this mechanic? Try explaining this to a new player. Wow, Daddy, you're like a real horror movie villain. You caught him. Kill him, Daddy.
Ah, the naivety of youth. No, little Cletus, I have to wait 2 to 3 seconds before hitting him. You see, the other side has a perk that's so deeply ingrained in the meta that you have to treat everyone like they have it.
Wait, so if I want to play killer, every chase I'll have to wait before hitting them?
I'm afraid so. You can, of course, swing whenever you want, but often they will dash away and you will have wasted your only opportunity to down them. Don't you have this in your games?
No, I play shooters. When you see a guy, you just shoot him. Waiting would be incredibly unfun game design.
Seriously, is this honestly what we want in a game like this? At the lowest, stupidest use of Dead Hard, just using it out in the open, before we even get into the OP parts of it, is waiting behind a survivor good gameplay. No. And if you said yes, shut the fuck up. You're banished to the category of people who dead hard into walls. You should not be sharing your weird waiting behind survivors fetish opinions online. I had a guy just recently saying, it's just a mechanic. Oh, so if it's part of the game, I'm not allowed to say it sucks? And wouldn't you guess what else he said? Look, this is bad gameplay. This stupid waiting has been normalized to be some sort of skilled endeavor like, oh, good killers wait out dead hard. Like waiting is some skill and not just dumb bullshit? Let me shorten that sentence for you. Good killers wait. Why? When the focus of killer is downing survivors before they do 5 gens, playing as iconic murderous slashers, why would waiting for them when you're right on top of them be a gameplay mechanic that represents high skill? This is so unfun. It's not satisfying counterplay. It's not some high IQ killer move. It's just waiting. It's walking behind a survivor and waiting. Somehow no one brings this up. They always jump to unsolicited advice like, swing your camera, remember who has it, just wait it out. My guy, I know how to wait. I'm walking right behind him like some stupid asshole and it sucks. This sucks. And can we stop pretending that looking up and down is any sort of way to bait out dead hard? Most of the clips I see of this, the killer is already within licking distance of the survivor, so they would just dead hard anyway. Looking up and down doesn't fool anyone who's been in more than 20 chases, and if anything, it's more likely to mess you up as killer instead. Even if it did work, how is this acceptable counterplay to anyone? Swinging your camera up and down? Seriously, you're okay with that? This is an abusive relationship. Stop making excuses for ridiculous things you have to do just to safely swing.
What if we were just allowed to hit survivors without running through a checklist? You ever think about that?
So at the lowest, dumbest use of dead hard, fine, it's not OP. It's just not fun. And video games are supposed to be fun. If you don't care because you don't play killer, let me remind you, if killer is more fun, that means more killer players, which means survivor queue times will massively improve. Hey man, I'm a fellow killer main too, and to me waiting out dead hard is no different than waiting out borrowed time and decisive strike. Yes it is. I don't run into borrowed time and decisive strike every chase, and if you do, you probably tunnel and camp the shit out of survivors. I play solo queue. I would be happy to see borrowed time be base kit. I'm fine with DS after the nerf, so comparing them to dead hard isn't the gotcha counterpoint you think it is. Now here you might say, hey, just because there's one unfun part of a game doesn't make it a bad mechanic. You can get shot back in a shooter, that doesn't make it a bad mechanic. It's also not fun when survivors drop a pallet on you or get a flashlight save. But the reason it's different with these is because the survivor actually did something skilled to get in a position to outplay you. You got pallet dropped because they ran the loop right. They got a flashlight save because they timed it right without you seeing them before the pickup. These are skilled plays, just like you can make in a shooter. Now look at dead hard. Well, they were running, and then they pressed a button, and now you lose. There's not much skill that goes into it, unless you really want to call running toward a pallet instead of into a wall skill. What's worse is that often the killer had to actually think about and make a skilled play to be in a position to get a hit in the first place, and then it gets cancelled by the press of a button. The shooter equivalent of dead hard is armor lock in Halo Reach, where your opponent could just hold a button for invincibility and you just had to wait it out before shooting them. Obviously it could be used in smarter ways, just like dead hard, but even when used at the stupidest times, like when they know you're gonna win the firefight, you still had to just stand there like an idiot and wait for 5 seconds, aka bad gameplay. Needless to say, this is pretty much everyone's least favorite Halo mechanic ever. It wasn't allowed in most competitive modes for being stupid, and it also did not make an appearance in the later games. Look, a 4-man survivor squad can be really hard to beat, I know, but it's not like gamers don't like hard games. Gamers love hard games. What they don't like is where you do everything right and lose to some dumb bullshit because that's just the way it is. If you ever make a game and want people to quit as fast as possible, all you have to do is make sure that people don't feel rewarded for playing well. Or at the very least, make them have to play around parts of the game rather than just being able to enjoy it as a whole. Well, that's all fine and dandy, but look, barely anyone uses dead hard correctly anyway. Now let's take a quick look at correct dead hard usage just to clarify. This is dead harding to a pallet or on a straightaway to a window to extend the chase. When done right, there's nothing that can be done to stop this. You might predict it and go around on a small loop or use a specific killer power to get around the pallet faster, but they are getting to the safe zone that they're aiming at when they use dead hard for distance. If your opinion is truly that barely anyone does this, then I'm sorry to break the news to you, you are playing bad survivors. Which means that the game has determined that you are bad at killer. And since MMR seems wildly inconsistent, with evidence that the inconsistency is caused by a sheer lack of killer players, you have to be really bad to not be seeing players that consistently use dead hard correctly. Like, I'm not even that good and it happens basically every game, so I have no idea where people are getting this idea that barely anyone uses it right. Most likely, the survivors can see that you're bad at killer. They aren't going to need to dead hard for distance because they know it'll probably work by just doing it right through you. Or they're just looping your ass off and they don't even need it. I think the amount of people using it well is going up too, with gameplay that encourages sweating and dead hard validation recently becoming a thing. It's getting more and more common to see the correct usage of dead hard. Okay, so it's uncounterable once or twice a game, big deal. Against potatoes, sure. I don't care if someone extends the chase that much if the team isn't very gen inclined. But against even halfway decent survivors who know that doing gens is how you win, yeah, it kinda is a big deal. Quick math. A gen done by one person takes 80 seconds. If only one person does gens all game, with let's say 20 seconds to travel to the next one, that's 8 minutes and 20 seconds to do all 5. Okay, I can win a game in that time. But what about 2 people? Well, that would be 5 minutes flat, assuming they don't even team up on the last one. Now let's jump back to reality and remember that you're playing 4 people. If you're chasing 1 and 3 are busy doing something, that needs to be a quick chase every time if you want to keep up the pressure. And if you don't want to tunnel and camp, you're going to have a minimum of 12 chases. And if you've ever chased a good survivor, like the kind that can even make T&L walls brutal, then you'll know that you'll be lucky to down them in 30 seconds or less, especially if it's the start of the match and they still have a lot of pallets at their disposal. Now here you might say, well, you need to drop chase and go after someone else, and you aren't necessarily wrong, but it usually takes at least 20 seconds to realize this, and then you have to find someone else and hope that they aren't good too. And if they are, now what? Drop chase again? At some point you have to commit to someone. So you do your mind games, you get the drop on them twice, and then you get here. Oh, they press their free escape button, which basically resets the chase. And all the while, their team is holding that M1 button like their life depends on it while you get outplayed by the E key. Is it any wonder that killers are running builds like this all the time? Winning 2 hits against a good survivor in a short time is hard enough, but increase it to 3 and there just isn't enough time to chase everyone. And then they get mad at you when you play with this in mind. Take this game for example. I hooked Ace, Michaela, Claire, Ace. Can't find anyone. Still can't find anyone. Ace doing a gen in front of me with only 2 left. Sorry, Ace. Tunneled for the win. Ignoring the fact that I just kind of happened to find him again, if I didn't do this, I had 0 chance at any kills. I mean, a gen pops right after I hook him. So I hit him with the standard, cry more, and trash without Dead Hard, which was a lie. He was pretty good, but I was a little salty since Dead Hard made it even tougher when he used it well every chase. And the nerve of this man says, every chase? Bro, the footage is right there. No first chase, Dead Hard to window second chase, Dead Hard to pallet third chase, while Claire gets up with her second chance perk. And this is after he already got up with Unbreakable too. I'm sorry, this is frustrating. I don't care if he's trolling, I'm only human. These survivors who Dead Hard all game and then wait for you at the exit gate are like the dude who misses every shot at pickup but banks in a 3 at the end and trash talks everyone. You can come up with a ton of reasons that killer players are leaving the game, but being told you suck from people who can press E to avoid a down has gotta be up there. And the sad part is that Dead Hard is really even stronger than a moderately well-timed button press. They don't even have to be in position to use it because if you know it's there, you really can't swing it any time. If I swing now, she Dead Hards and gets to the pallet. But if I follow around the corner, she still Dead Hards to the pallet. Look, you can see me doing this at Survivor too. The poor Legion is scared to swing because I have Schrodinger's Dead Hard. And this lose-lose situation happens to literally anyone who's playing killer. So wait it out isn't really a viable strategy anymore, but now neither is swinging early. So let's say you're playing decent survivors who are going to finish all 5 gens in 7 minutes, and you don't want to tunnel or camp. So for 12 chases, you have 35 seconds to down and hook each of them before endgame. Let's say you get a first hit on a survivor in 10 seconds, and 15 seconds later are about to get the second, but they Dead Hard to safety. Even an optimistic 10 more seconds for the third hit is putting you behind schedule, only made worse by online commenters saying, well, you need to leave chase when they Dead Hard like that. Fine, I'm leaving. I wasted 25 seconds to get 1 survivor injured. That Dead Hard was an instant free escape from being hooked. Let's look at other perks that do that. Decisive Strike activates once per game and only 60 seconds after being hooked. Also goes away if you do objectives. Adrenaline activates once per game if you survive to the end game. Yeah, I've lost whole games to 1 adrenaline, but the fact that it's only 1 time per game and that I can prevent it by winning early makes it a lot easier to swallow. Power Struggle, you have to be under a pallet, run flip-flop as well, and lay there for at least 10 seconds. Now Dead Hard, available every 40 seconds, and most likely at least once per chase at the press of a button. You can't win without chasing, you're always going to see this perk. But you have to be injured to use it. Okay, so it's countered by Bubba and Billy's M2, and Ghostface, Oni, and Myers power if they use it well. Maybe a few eerie add-ons. So injured to use it isn't really a negative except against 5 out of 27 killers. Now what about the killers whose power is hard countered by it? You can Dead Hard through Trapper's Traps, away from Wraith's Speed Boost, put a Nurse into Fatigue, avoid a Scroll Wheel Hag, Dead Hard through Doctor's Blast, Dead Hard a Hatchet, a Pig Rush, Spirit Speed Boost, Plague's Vomit, Demogorgon's Lunge, Oni's Demon Rush, Deathslinger's Spear Gun, Pyramid Head's Punishment of the Damned, Blight's Lethal Rush, Victor's Lunge, plus you get a free kick, Trickster's Knives, Nemesis Whip, Pinhead's Chains, Artist's Crows, and Sadako's Speed Burst. But yeah, those 5 insta-down killers definitely make the injury requirement of Dead Hard a valid balancing agent. But Sprint Burst can also be used in the same way as Dead Hard. I guess if they kept it 99 the entire chase, or managed to walk 40 seconds during the chase. And you know what? I'm fine with this. Those are both nice displays of skill, and way harder than just pressing a button. And you know how often I see a 99 Sprint Burst? Maybe 1 out of 20 games. Usually it's just used right at the start of the chase, and now it's a positive for me because I know I don't have to wait out Dead Hard once they're injured. I can count on one hand how many survivors I've seen consistently 99 sprint bursts and use it well in chase. And honestly, I respect the skill because it's legitimately hard to do. But why would anyone do this when they can get the same effect by pressing E? The one thing Sprint Burst does have over Dead Hard is the ability to escape a dead zone at the start of chase, but I would much rather lose to an exhaustion perk before I commit to the chase rather than lose to an exhaustion perk at what should have been the end of chase, because with the latter you've already wasted the time to catch them. You can pick any exhaustion perk you like, only Dead Hard gives you that speed boost at the exact moment you need it with no preparation. Okay, well killers have Bloodlust, isn't that an automatic, no effort chase winning mechanic too? Look, I almost didn't even want to cover this since survivors who complain about Bloodlust are usually some of the saltiest kids around. But I'll explain it anyway. In a 4v1 game, the 1 has to be much stronger than each of the 4 individually. If they could fairly compete in the 1v1, the game would be horribly unbalanced. So how do the 4 win if they can't do it 1v1? By using good teamwork. Game balance restored. Now Bloodlust is only even in the game as a patch to bad map and loop design, but even with that I thought it was pretty obvious that you're supposed to lose a chase after a certain amount of time. If every survivor could make every loop last 30 seconds or more just by running it tightly, there would be no more killer players left. Bloodlust is there to try and make sure the killer is eventually winning the chase no matter what, because they're supposed to win the 1v1. And if they're hitting Bloodlust, that means you already wasted at least 15 seconds of their time without forcing a pallet break, which is a good thing. This also applies to perks like, oh, Bamboozle is just press spacebar to win, just like Dead Hard. Ignoring the fact that if you can't play around Bamboozle, you're probably absolutely trash at Survivor, the fact remains that the game is supposed to favor killer and chases. That's why there's 4 survivors to make up for this with teamwork. Look, I'm not some crazy, the game is balanced when I 4K every game killer main. I just want to win a chase when I've won the chase. To which you say, but you haven't won the chase because Dead Hard is part of the game. To which I say, I know, that's what I've been bitching about this whole time. If you still don't think Dead Hard is prevalent enough to be a problem, despite being the 3rd most used survivor perk with averages going way up depending on how MMR is feeling that day, how about the existence of the Dead Hard fake? More and more survivors are taking advantage of killers' terrible FOV and reluctance to swing at injured survivors by running directly at them to try and make them turn around. Let's go back to Mr. Tunnel to win. He knew I couldn't swing at this. You're probably jaded to this, but seriously, in a survivor-killer horror game, a good play is to run at the killer. There's absolutely no other perk for either side that you can fake like this. Maybe the equivalent would be Blight doing an extra rush to bait out Dead Hard, but he wouldn't have to f***ing do that if this perk didn't exist in the first place. If a perk is so prevalent that running at the killer is a good play, it might be time to take a closer look at it. So what would I do about Dead Hard? Honestly, I don't even have a real opinion because it doesn't matter. The developers are going to do whatever they want. I would love to see it removed, but the survivor tantrum that would bring would probably kill the game for good. Some people have suggested not being able to vault or drop pallets for a few seconds after using it, which would at least take away some of the chase extending powers. Some people have said to take away the iframes so there would be no more Dead Hard fakes or Dead Harding through the killer, which would also be nice. All I know is that it was added as a perk back in 2017 when the game was mostly just to mess around and scare your friends, and now 5 years later it's ridiculously overpowered since most people actually know how to play. The saddest secret of Dead Hard is that all the salty killer mains in the in-game chat are right. It actually is a crutch perk. I stopped running it because I hated it so much as killer, and my looping got a lot better within a few weeks. It was when I put it back on after a long break that I realized just how insane it is if you stack it on top of already knowing how to loop decently. Dead Hard removal is my pipe dream. I know it will never happen, but I'm still gonna wish.
I want you to look at the river, Lenny, and imagine a game where you don't have to wait an extra 5 seconds every time you catch an injured survivor. A game where successful mind game isn't countered by pressing a button. A game where survivors actually have to be good at looping because they don't have a 3rd health state at the ready.
I can see it now, George. I can see killers having more fun. I can see shorter survivor queues, less need for tunneling and camping, and swinging when you're close enough to down a survivor, not just waiting for them to press a button.